Hey, what's up, guys? It's Flaw from the YugiCast, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be going over an old game or a replay of a game in Goat Control format. Now, anyone who's watched the live stream knows that Goat Control is probably my favorite format in Yu-Gi-Oh history. It's one of the most skillful formats in the game. It teaches you a lot about how to play the game and how to play well, um, and it's just a lot of fun to play for me. And so I'm playing with Nick, also known as Enemy Drag, from the live stream, and we were talking on Skype, and I asked him if he wanted to play, and he agreed. And he opens pretty well here. He opens Magician, Book, MST, and a Asura Priest. And Asura Priest is a really good card this format. Now we actually both opened with Asura Priest, which is strange. But Asura Priest is probably one of my favorite cards in the format because it's in one card out the Scapegoats. Um, Basically, if your opponent flips, there's ways to force your opponent to flip Scapegoat on you in this format that are really creative. And if you can do that with an Asura Priest, you can pretty much just make them burn a goats, and it's just a really powerful card, and it's one of my favorites. It's also a spirit. Spirits are really cool. So I'm gonna show you guys. I managed to pull off one of the oldest and one of my favorite locks in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Through simple one-for-ones and resource management. But Nick's actually gonna start off, excuse me, pretty well on me this game. So we're just gonna go and get started. I said two, and Nick does something I never agree with, is he blind MSTs. Something you have to realize about GOAT format is you only have one MST. You typically have one MST, one breaker, and 1 to 2 dust tornadoes. Let's see how many he's running. He's running one. He's got one set, so he's running 2 dust tornadoes. So you only have 4 forms of back row removal. Now you typically only run 6 or 7 traps, generally speaking. However, you also run cards like Snatch Steal, Premature Burial, Call the Han, things like that. And that's what you want to save your back row removal for. You don't want to just blind MST anything. It's one of the things about playing in the format that you kind of learn as you go. And I even told him I felt like that was really wasteful. And he also totally telegraphed the fact that he had a Magician of Faith in his opening hand because he MSTs and then sets a monster. That's telling me that he has a way to recycle that MST, and he's just hoping I don't have what's it called, Nobleman of Crossout. So I summon Ixarian. I go ahead and use Ixarian's effect, set 2, and he's going to recycle the MST. I knew that was coming, but I want to go ahead and get it out of the way. I didn't realize that he was going to have the dust set. My hope was to just set 2 and bait out the MST so I could flip a scapegoat on it and basically make him waste his MST when he goes to use it. But he actually plays this fairly well with the Dust Tornado and the MST, kind of recycling them as he goes. But as you can see, he's not gaining anything by this, and that's kind of why you don't want to do this as early as he did. But he tops into a Warrior Lady. He's going to MST my other back row, set a card, and pass his turn. I'm going to top Graceful, and excuse me, it's really late. I had to yawn there. Sorry about that. So I'm going to top deck Graceful. I'm not going to use it yet. You typically only want to use Graceful Charity when you have Sinister Serpent in your hand, because Sinister Serpent makes Graceful Charity a +1 instead of a +0. Um, and so I'm just going to attack with Ixarian. I didn't know what this would be, so I just went ahead and used the Ixarian effect. I take a little bit of damage there, no biggie. He draws into the Spirit Reaper. Doesn't summon it. He plays smart. He's not, even though I don't have back row, he's not summoning a lot of monsters. You typically don't want to put a lot of monsters on board in this format. Thousand Eyes Restrict just starts taking all your big monsters and creating a lot of problems for you when you do that. And when you start summoning lots of monsters without control of the board, you ask for that to happen to yourself. So I know I'm going to have to get rid of this Warrior Lady somehow or another. So I just go ahead and get rid of it with the Ixarian Universe. I just take the trade. No big deal. I think I'm in a pretty good spot because if you look before he drew, he drew in a heavy storm. Before he drew, he had this, 2, 3, 4, and I've got 5 cards in hand. I'm +1 on card advantage, and all he's done is he's resolved the Magician, he's resolved 2 MSTs and a Dust Tornado, and I'm still plus in card advantage. This is kind of how Goat Control works. You have to kind of learn to manage your resources in a way. You have to understand what your opponent can and can't have at any given time. And I knew he's already burned a Dust Tornado, so I didn't expect him to have one of those. And I knew his MST was gone, so I wasn't worried about that. So these sets, I already know are things that I have to deal with late at some point or another. But I didn't expect him to have the Spirit Reaper for some reason, because you run a lot of 1-ups in Goat Control. So he's going to hit my Asura Priest with Spirit Reaper, which is really unfortunate for me. But I top into Mirror Force, and I'm going to Graceful. And I normally wouldn't Graceful this early, because there's no advantage gained by Gracefuling. But I kind of wanted an out, just in case he had the second Dust Tornado, and I didn't want to lose my Mirror Force. Excuse me, so I'm just going to set them both. And I dump both my Air Knights. Now, Air Knight is a power card in this format. It is when you set in a format where you set so many monsters, its effect to do piercing damage is really, really powerful. You're basically drawing a card almost every turn when he's on the board. However, I decided I would just wait and hope I topped into, because I drew into a Morphing Jar off of Graceful. I figured I could find my way into like a Call of the Haunted or a Premature Burial, something like that if I absolutely need it. So I just go ahead and get rid of both of those because I'm not losing anything by not having them. I set the Magician of Faith, set Mirror Force, and I just pass the turn. All of this right now, by the way, is just me setting up um, what I'm hoping will eventually be a quick win for me. Now, he summons an Asura Priest, which I understand why he did it, but I don't agree with it. Excuse me. Asura Priest can kill my monster, and then he can hit another card on my hand with Spirit Reaper. However, I I don't know that I agree with summoning Asura Priest. That's just me personally. I can't say I would have done much different. I may have summoned a Tsukiyomi instead, since that's what he has in his hand, and attacked with that. Because Asura Priest is such a power card, you only have one of those and you have two Tsukis. But he summons the Asura Priest and he runs into the Mirror Force and he's going to Book of Moon his Spirit Reaper, which is a really good play on him. And I'm going to draw into a Spirit Reaper of my own. I'm going to set it and just pass. And this is what we're going to kind of do right now. We're both just kind of, draw a card, pass, draw a card, pass. We're both kind of working our way to a position where we feel like we can make a play. And yeah, this is just going to keep going for another turn or two. I believe he's going to set another monster eventually. When he finally decides to set a card, I decided to use the Dust Tornado. I didn't want to get scapegoated when I was ready to make my push, and I'm slowly building towards a push. I read that this wasn't a scapegoat a long time ago. Just I knew he wouldn't set it while he had. Well, there's no point in setting a scapegoat when you have a Spirit Reaper on the board. So I kind of read that that's not going to be a scapegoat in the minute that he summoned the Spirit Reaper. So that was kind of my logic there. I go ahead and dust the other card just in case, because Ring of Destruction is a power card and it's it's incredibly mean in this format. You don't like getting ringed. It causes so many draws. It's not fun. So this turn, I'm gonna flip Magician, get back Graceful, draw some cards. Or first I'm gonna break her card away. Then I'm gonna draw some cards. Oh no, sorry, I'm not gonna draw some cards. Oh yeah, my plan here. This is exceptionally mean. I was setting up for a miniature version of the lock here. I was expecting him to flip his monster and attack into a Magician, and I was just going to Book of Moon Magician at that point, so that I was guaranteed to get my card back instead. So instead I get into Delinquent Duo. I go ahead and Duo. Normally this is another card that you want to save. You only want to Duo when you know they don't have Sinister Serpent. Um, I'm just kind of playing it risky here because I know he can hit every card out of his hand this turn, and that's what matters to me. If he gets back a Sinister Serpent, that's cool. I I'm just I'd rather just go ahead and get two cards out of his hand. If he has the Serpent, he has the Serpent. Plus on Death Pro, it actually does randomly take two cards out of your hand. So like on DN and in real life, when it says you randomly take a card out of your own hand, you can I randomly discard Sinister Serpent. On Death Pro, you can't really do that. It does randomly take cards from your hand for you. So I'm gonna Graceful into Nobleman, get rid of I knew that this was Spirit Reaper, and I knew that when I drew into Suki plus Nobleman, I knew that I could get rid of this later. So I go ahead and Nobleman the Face Down, which turned out to be Sandgame, which was a good play because that's another again. All of your cards in this format are really powerful. You need all of them, so the removal is super important. So I'm just gonna set and reflip Suki, get back my Nobleman, and get rid of the Spirit Reaper. I now have him on a lock. He can't set monsters because I'm going to Tsukiyomi flip Magician, get back Nobleman, and he can't keep cards in his hand because if he leaves an open board for me to swing at, I'm going to hit him with Spirit Reaper. And this is actually pretty much game right here. I'm going to hit the Scapegoat out of his hand, hit him for some damage. Suki returns to my hand, and then this turn he was joking about this. He draws Sinister and sets it. I make the exact same play again. Suki flip Magician, Magician flip back up. Nobleman away your card. And he actually jokes, watch me, I'm going to draw Metamorphosis next turn. And of course, he would have drawn the Metamorphosis. In this situation, it wouldn't have been as bad for him to just hold this card in his hand. But, he didn't. He said it, and he loses it to Nobleman. And I told him at this point, I have game at this point. You have no advantage. You can't draw cards without losing them in some way. I've pretty much just won this game, which is really unfortunate for him because his Mirror Force was gone, and you only get one of those. The only thing he could have really drew into that would have helped him was Torrential, and I think that was all the way at the bottom of his deck. Yeah, very last, very last card in his deck. So I'll just let this play out here. This is literally the rest of the game. If he summons a monster, I'm gonna Suki flip my Magician, get back Nobleman, and kill it. If he sets a spell or trap, I'm going to Suki get back one of my removal spells from the grave. This is literally just how this deck works. This is how Goat Control works, and this is how I feel like a lot of players can learn to get better at the game by learning to hold your cards and how to build advantage and properly control the game. So I just wanted to show you guys this off. This is one of the nastiest locks in the game outside of the Chaos Emperor, Dragon, Yada lock thing. This is a permanent lock that takes. I got lucky. I drew into it. I was really lucky. However, there are times when you're playing in this format, you can be playing 5 and 6 turns ahead of yourself to set these kind of locks up. Um, if you've never played Goat Control, I highly encourage you to check it out and try it. Great format, one of my favorites in the game's history. But thank you guys for watching. My name is Flaw, and I'm out. Peace.